What's up, guys? My name is Lex Veldhuis and welcome back to another episode of Poker Coaching. We're gonna jump straight in. It's the final two tables of the 530 marathon. We're gonna talk about every single hand. Let's take a look. Okay, this is a good start. Maybe hello Totti action. Oh, that's good. Lots more tournaments starting now. 6, we can take it to showdown. If we bet, I'm going to be primarily up against King X, 9X, all of his high cards folds. That's a good card.
All right, so we get dealt King Queen the big, 65 big blind stack opens, and we call. You check, very standard. This guy overbets. What do you think about in this spot?
I think that I'm just down way too low. I think that the first thing I need to look at is the obvious defense like 9x, 7x, Deuce X, and I think I'm going to go very heavily towards, like, if I have any sort of high card variations, I'm going to go heavily towards like open enders and or like maybe some flatted ace jack with a backdoor flush draw or something like that. But I think when it's this bet size, I actually can fold a lot. So I think I have plenty to defend with other than this.
Okay, yeah, this hand I think will probably mostly fold, but this hand will call probably a little bit. A big part of the reason for that is basically just board coverage. The king and the queen are pretty disconnected from the board, so you're going to see a lot of barrels on king x and queen x turns, and then as a result, like, this hand kind of like recoups a lot of the EV that it would lose calling such a large bet by picking up, like, lots of barrels on what are cards that are very, very, very difficult for you to actually connect with. You will not be able to defend at all with like king jack offsuit or like king 10 offsuit or anything like that. But the king queen here is like a kind of like a special one, and you do frequently see this one like find its way. And in addition to that, this hand has great equity against this player's value betting range, where this player's value betting range is what I call value protection oriented. So it's like a lot of ace 9 and pocket 10s and pocket jacks. So like hands that get a lot of value, but hands that are also kind of vulnerable to turns. This hand's got a lot of equity against that type of range, but certainly close.
Yeah,
and like and mostly a fold. Yeah, mostly a fold. So okay, yeah, that's fine. And this player's now very short. We use the one big blind c-bet strat. I think that's really good. I think that's pretty standard. Basically, like, all the draws missed, right? So
yeah, I figured I unblock everything. It's good for me to have the ace of hearts in that sense.
Yeah, he's not bluffing with the ace of hearts, right? So it's where we should be all good to hear this off, I think. Okay. Seems pretty standard there. I like the flop call as well. Sounds good. I like that we didn't just fold.
Oh no. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, he's got 20 bigs. I'm okay with this fold. This should be like, if you have queen 8 suited here. Sorry, if you have queen 8 suited here, for sure it's gonna be really tough to fold. Once you get below queen 8 suited, like queen 7 suited is gonna be like maybe close-ish, but like queen 6, queen 5, I'm just folding for sure. So I like to fold there. Yeah, that's fine. This goes bet plus call. So how do you think about 3-betting the big blind?
Well, I definitely noticed from our past sessions that I don't 3-bet any offsuited, like king high, jack high, queen high. So like I 0% queen 9, jack 9, king 10, queen 10 off, like 0%. So if you would tell me that this hand is a 3-bet as well at a certain sliver, that would be a huge surprise to me and probably something I need to implement.
Okay. Yeah, so I don't actually personally, like, I don't personally love 3-betting this hand. A big part of it is because, especially as like this with small blind short here, queen 8 is basically like the bottom of this player's opening range, but whenever I see this hand, it always like kind of triggers something in me because it's the bottom of the opening range. So I usually look at queen 8 and then I'm like, oh no, I'm going to 3-bet with queen 7 and queen 6. And the reason for that is because this player is raised first in, bottom will be queen 8 offsuit, jack 8 offsuit, 10 8 offsuit, 9 8 offsuit. So I like having queen 7 offsuit, so I make those bottom of range folds available. I don't like having an 8 in my hand, basically. I really prefer to 3-bet with like a 7 or a 6 in my hand. But whenever I see Queen 8 offsuit, it's always like, okay, like this is like I'm starting to get to where I want to 3-bet a little bit of these kind of trash combos.
Yeah.
But not quite this one. So okay, doing pretty good. That check fold is obviously very standard with the Queen high. So just under 40, and we end up limp slamming. So what's going through your head when you're in a situation like this one?
Yeah, so I definitely want to have some. We're not near the money yet. In that sense, I mean, this is like a very it's small field tournament, right? Only top 3 get money. It's like very top heavy. I think in ICM scenarios, I'm supposed to my strategy becomes a little bit more limp call. But you know, I mean, this is probably already has more ICM than I realize, but I think that my limp calls are a little bit more towards ace 8, ace 7, ace 6, and ace 9 starts introducing jams, even though I'm at like the stack size where that's probably a mix with 40. Whereas like 30 big blinds is like a pure jam, I think, with ace 9.
Yeah, so okay, so I see like how your thought process is going. So you're a little bit too aggressive with this block. So at 30 bigs, the ace 9 will be a mix, and at 40 bigs, this hand will basically be a limp call. So the way that I think about this is you have 2 strategies basically. You have like the strategy that's bluffing when you're limp shoving, and the strategy, like the component of the strategy that's bluffing, would be like the more bottom end ace X that you're capable of limp jamming with, and so that'll be like you know, ace 5, ace 6, you know, maybe ace deuce, particularly at 30, not at 40. And then we have the value bets, right? And that's obviously, that starts at ace king, and then goes to ace queen, ace jack, ace 10, etc. And then if we have, you know, 30 big blinds, you can use a lot of ace 9 to limp jam. But once you get to 40 big blinds, ace 9 is not as good of a limp jam from a value perspective. And then if it's not a value bet, then you start to get into this like really middling kind of hand with ace 9, where you're probably better off limp calling it. And usually you're better off calling with like ace 7, ace 8, ace 9. Until you get, you know, unless you're really short. But it works the same way if you think about it, like versus if you're in the big blind and the button opens. Usually you see a lot of calling with like ace 8, ace 7, ace 9. Like those 3 usually do a lot of calling. It's a pretty similar philosophy that I have for limp calling the small blind, where these ones, unless I'm short, where these ones will do a lot of limp calling. And then if I want to bluff, I'll bluff like basically ace 6, maybe ace 5, maybe ace deuce. But like from a value betting perspective, these ones just get a little bit too far away from like, you know, a clean value bet because we're just too deep.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It just moves up so far that I all of a sudden I'm like, you know, I'm bluffing with ace 9 over bluffing with ace 7, which is ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. Okay, bunch of folds, all very standard. I like to fold here multi-way. I wouldn't call here either. So, I don't really like calling there out of position. Heads up here, 20 bigs. This looks, you know, maybe it's a little bit on the big side, but this looks pretty clean to me. On a blank turn. So we expect in position to be c-betting the vast majority of the 10x component on the turn. And then like even a large fraction of the good 8x component is going to be a turn c-bet here on a blank like this. So like you're in pretty solid shape once the 10 pairs and, you know, essentially the board blanks. So definitely value betting this hand, definitely not checking. Sizing's a bit greedy, but I think it's still good. So I like this hand. Yeah, or just too short. Okay, so we're definitely not. Now I wouldn't ask about how close we are to the money, so this is good.
Yeah. It could be getting to like final table territory, which is still very important, right?
100%. Yeah, we can definitely have some ICM that we're gonna have to layer in. Okay, so we 3-bet the ace 10 off. And how do you like what's going through your head when you're in a situation like this one?
I want to especially okay. So what I do is I try to see how many people have position on me. The more people have position on me, the more I turn my offsuit hands into bluffs pre-flop. Suited ones, I will still flat. You know, I'm talking literally specifically about like ace jack suited, ace ten suited, king queen suited, and like in this situation, I would like to use it more as a bluff in that sense. So like for a small, like 5 big blind, 5 big blind, 3-bet, and then use the offsuit ones like ace jack off, ace ten off, king queen off.
Okay, so this one's probably too thin, like ace ten in this given these positions, but like I don't hate this. If you're in chips, this is like a very low frequency mix, I think. So it's not like this is a high frequency play in chips. And then if you're not in chips, then this will tend to be just a fold. And the reason for that would be that yeah, you cover everyone, which means like hey, like rar, I'm going to try to beat everybody up. But this player is actually opening into a stack that's very deep. It's going to call a lot. Small blind stack also covers a 15 big blind stack over here, and then a stack that covers here, as well as a pretty threatening stack here. So this player is in kind of a coffin. Like they're in a cage. It's difficult for them to get out here and start having a wide opening range. And so you're not likely to see this hand be like a viable 3-bet ICM adjusted, and it's not that good of a 3-bet in chips. So my tendency would be to just fold this hand.
Okay.
So yeah, but we took a shot at it. It's not like it's that bad or anything, but like you'll see, ace jack's a mix, I think, in this situation if you're in ICM. But the way that I typically explain it is you kind of want to play almost like empathetically, which is like if you're this guy and you're opening, it's a pretty intimidating prospect, right? With this guy on 15 bigs, these two guys both covering you, chip leaders to your direct left. Like this is a pretty intimidating spot to open. So if that's the case, he's probably tight. And so you got to be kind of careful about how you go after him.
Yeah.
So
That's a great point.
Okay, cool. So I'm probably gonna use a small c-bet size if I had to guess. I just use that a lot on monotone boards, even if I'm in position. So I'm probably betting, but I don't think this is like stupid. I think this is like probably fine. But I do use a lot of like small c-bet sizes, like 15% or something. Ugh, that's rough. I'm probably doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, seems fine-ish. Seems fine. I don't know. Seems fine-ish at least. Whoa. Okay, whatever. This is the way it goes. So, yeah, I think that. Well, yeah, I think that even at 15, we just don't shove that much in position. I think it's like when we're heads up, it's not the same thing as being blind versus blind. So that positional advantage means we limp a lot more. So I like the limp. How did you think about the flop at the time? Like what are you thinking about now? Never mind the time. Like what do you think about when you see this flop?
I mean, not great, but yeah, I don't know. Okay, so what I kind of want to think about is like, what is his checking strategy from the big blind? Like, I guess I kind of feel like my hand's just too good to sort of bluff with, but I also want to think about the equity protection, value betting part of it. I just don't know how easy that's going to be on a board that's semi-wet. I realized that I didn't actually give a conclusion to what I should do. Coward. Yeah, I don't know. I actually think that I'm not value betting against a lot here, because I think that at this stack depth, he's going to shove any ace that I dominate, or any ace. Obviously, I dominate them all, or raise with king X, or, I know there's a lot of checking in heads up, but so I'm not actually, he's not going to call me with jack high, so I don't really see the purpose of a bet here. I'd much rather bet my limped jack.
Do you think he'll call with ace high?
I don't think he has it after checking the big blind pre.
Do you think he'll call with king high?
Sure, but I do think there's going to be a lot of raising from that block as well pre-flop. So if I look at the weight of that block, I actually think it's very low compared to the rest.
This is like super close. I think that I probably would have bet the flop with ace king, and I would have checked with ace nine. And like it's just like that kind of similar idea, where like I think that this hand like can still dominate a large fraction of the check calling range. I agree that this player doesn't have ace X, but this player does probably have like king seven, and those hands probably can't pure fold, particularly if they have a club. But even without a club, like a hand like King 10 probably has to call, which I think this player can also have. A hand like King 9 probably has to call, if this whether they have a club or not. So yeah, I'd rather bet Ace King. You have 2 overcards, etc. Like I'd rather bet Ace King than Ace 9. I'd rather bet Ace King than Ace Jack. I'd rather bet Ace King than Ace 10. So I'm probably betting this at a decent clip. I don't hate the idea of checking.
Okay.
Certainly going to call a turn. And then, like, kind of like, how did you think about the river?
I mean, the one thing that's a little bit confusing about his bet sizing is that it's relatively polarizing, right? Like, I mean, he's not going to bet a 5 this way. He's not going to bet well, he could bet a 5 possibly this way. Like, it would be pretty gangster, but I still don't think he's going to have a natural. This is not a natural size for a 5, especially not a 4 or 3. So it's actually a lot more polarized than. I'm pretty positive that I'm folding, but there are some alarm bells when I see this because it's like I beat all of his air. I represent jack shit. I need to find some calls. I'm probably betting all of my queens. Probably don't have a whole lot of jack high, so I need to find some calls. And I think that, like, seeing what I end up with, what range I end up on the turn with, that this hand's relatively good.
I think you should end up with like Queen Deuce and Queen 6, something like that. Like, you check back like the top pair, no kicker type hands. So I think you should end up with like some Queen Deuce here, some Queen 6. I think that I don't disagree that like his bet sizing pairing is kind of weird in the sense that he bets like pretty small in the turn, I think, and then like decides to scale up the river quite significantly, which he's betting like sub half pot on the turn and then betting close to pot on the river. So that like implies probably that he's thinly value betting the turn, and then like he's not thinly value betting the river. So maybe he improved with the jack somehow. Maybe he was bluffing the turn with a hand like Jack 9, which would make sense to just to bluff with. He could King Jack is like maybe a more logical hand to value bet larger with on the river, but King Jack is a pretty high card hand, and you also have a King blocker. So I think Jack 9 is like a more likely type of hand, and I think that Jack 9, he doesn't think you have a lot of Queen X for checking back the flop, so he's able to go quite large. So maybe a hand like that makes some sense. But I think like when you have a Jack, you should just call, because I think that's going to pretty reasonably block his value betting range. And then I think it's not unreasonable to just call with boarded pairs because they unblock bluffs. And they'll still. I think that this range has maybe a lot of 2 pair in it that rivered a Jack. Like maybe he has a lot of like Jack 3 or Jack 4 or something, or Jack 5 even. And so I think like hero calling with a 5 is pretty good. Hero calling with a 4 is pretty good. So like I'd fold this also, but I think you just want to like have some kind of estimation of what he's got. This looks reasonable to me, I think, with these stacks. So how are you thinking about this like A7 here on the hijack in this situation?
I think that I would, if stacks were deeper, I'd mix it. But I think with the stacks behind me, all like 15, 20 big blind stacks, well, actually 3 15 big blind stacks, I think that I'd rather just fold it because I don't really want to call all-ins, and it's very likely to happen.
I think you can just raise fold this. I wouldn't like I wouldn't include
Oh, because I also block jams.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like with this sort of a stack size, I think you can just raise fold. And like the small blind is the stack that's like kind of covers you, but they're out of position. 3 betting is like pretty viable considering like they have a relatively even stack with yours, but then you have a blocker if that's the way. Like if this player is going to play a more aggressive 3-bet strategy, then you want to have more ace-x in your opening range. These 3 players are very short, which means they're going to play 3-bet or fold strats, which means you want more ace-x in your opening range. So this is like a decent opportunity to steal, in my opinion. I might have taken this one, but it's not like some crazy idea or anything. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, but interesting. Didn't think about it like that.
Sure. So what are you thinking about here?
Shout out to Bottomless, by the way. What a nice little click 3-bet. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's just jam.
Yeah, I agree. This is like aces or bust, right? I mean, this should be like aces, maybe kings, maybe queens,
Yeah.
but like over pairs or bust. Against over pairs, you have like pretty good blockers. So if he has an overpair, you lose. If he doesn't have an overpair, he folds. So I probably jam. You folded. I just want to see how this plays out. Yeah. Sure jams. All right. Let's keep going. I also think that like there's a decent chance that someone's misclicking here. It's just it happens.
You never know. Yeah, there's a bigger than 0% chance.
Yeah, that's the misclick size. So I just stick in the ace queen there. Fairly similar situation. I'm calling off the a7 against Bruzzi now. It's a little bit worse because this player is quite deep. So like now you have to actually take this hand post flop against like a stack that's deep, which means the ace-7 is like less valuable. So it's not as good as the last opportunity to raise a7, but I think it's worth pointing out some of the differences to this in this one versus the last one. Where in the last one, like the small blind was the deeper stack, which plays less of a call preflop, which means the blockers were more valuable. Here, obviously, the big blind is going to play a much more of a call preflop, so this is like less valuable. That being said, you know, the fact that we can call off brutes means we're almost on the cutoff. Like we're not, but because this player is still relevant, he's not that short, but it's not that deep either. so like if I'm on the cutoff, I don't mind opening a7. So I guess it's still close. It's still close, but I think that I prefer the last spot to this spot at the margin.
Yeah. All right, guys, that was it for another episode of Poker Coaching. If you have any strategy comments or questions, make sure you drop them down below in the comments. Make sure you like and subscribe if you appreciate the free coaching content. And of course, if you want to check out BBZ, his links are in the description and you can find everything there. See you next time.